Hello and thanks for checking out ChartGuys.com. We're proud to be one of the most successful technical analysis communities online, teaching you the skills to become a more confident, effective, and informed trader. Join our community of hundreds of analysts worldwide working together to learn the charts, generate profit, and achieve financial independence. For access to daily live chart analysis and market coverage, a thriving chat community, along with dozens of hours of exclusive educational materials. We look forward to seeing you. Let's check out some charts. Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. We're going to be looking at TGOD CVSI LXRP and CANN because those are some short-term setups that I'm keeping an eye on, and I haven't had time to make a longer USMJ video. So what I did last weekend is overextended myself and worked too hard and then hit a brick wall. But I went through 140 tickers and narrowed it down to 29. We then took those 29 tickers and I broke them up into different groups: proximity to all-time highs, daily equilibriums, weekly equilibriums, recent trend changes to bullish, and then other. And those are 5 groups. And then we split that up among our community. And we had 9 people per team. Everybody takes a group. Every day they go through the analysis. They say, okay, this is going to be a key level. They're writing up little paragraphs. They're sharing it with the group. And that has been, I have been so... Got to give a pat on the back to everybody. It's just ideal teamwork when you have literally 50 plus people all working together, sharing information and keeping track of all these dozens of tickers much easier. So someone will just say group 2, CANN, breaking key resistance or whatever, and then we all know to look at it. So what these plays are going to be looking at is short-term action. I want to highlight that again, short-term. And I'm about to say something on TGOD that a lot of people are going to disagree with, and we can just watch to see how it plays out. But we got bad news after my hours, and we got CGC and WEED bad news as well. They had not necessarily bad news, but it's going to have a bearish reaction to they have financing coming out, so that is going to lead to a pullback. They're announcing that they are going to offer 400 million convertible senior notes. So we were down about 3-4% after hours on CGC. We'll see how that carries over into tomorrow morning, but obviously not bullish news in short-term action. So TGOD. We all know about sell the news, right? We went over that really clearly. It played out wonderfully heading into the vote. This is buy the news. Now, if you are not comfortable trading, don't buy this news. You're trying to catch a falling knife. The traders that have seen this happen before are loving this setup. So we were looking at this bounce on TGOD because we're in oversold conditions. We're coming off the all-time high, and we're going to form an equilibrium. We're going to set a higher low on the daily time frame. We're then going to bounce and set a lower high and watch this range tighten up. And I normally don't talk in absolutes, but I'm 98% sure that that's what's going to happen here because that's what happens time and time again on this setup. So why is this a buy the news event? Well, if I were going to release bad news and look to load up on that fear, this is exactly the timing that I would do it, and this is exactly the way that I would do it. Nice that they have those pictures to back it up. So we have multiple lower opens. Today was a gap down open, and we closed at the low of the day. The RSI on the hourly time frame is down under 20. The 4-hour RSI is likely to hit oversold tomorrow morning first thing. So anybody that sells on this news, in my opinion, is going to be a sucker in the short term. And why I say that is because, in my opinion, this news is timed intentionally to get the last flush down. So we talk about the volume climax and the flushes before pullbacks or before bounces. So this is going to trigger a volume climax flush and a really nice oversold bounce entry opportunity. Think about the psychology of what's going on. You have people locking in profit after a huge move. They've been locking in profit for 5 days now. So anybody that has been looking to lock in profit on this move up, a lot of them, the majority of them, have already done so. So now that we get this news coming out, this is going to be the last group of people to sell in the short term. Think about it. After tomorrow, the first half an hour of trading, who's going to be left to sell? Who would not have sold in the first 30 to 60 minutes trading tomorrow or in the previous 5 days that was going to sell? And what's that going to mean is that's going to be capitulation. And capitulation is when we have supply is clearly outweighing demand for shares, but that is going to flip a 180-degree turn where everybody that's going to sell in the short term will have sold, and it's going to only be people buying the dip. And I'm not sure if there's shorts available yet at this point. I would assume there are. I believe a couple members have been shorting. So shorts will probably cover and switch to bull positions to play this bounce. Now, is it going to happen tomorrow morning in the first 20 minutes? I can't say that. I have to see how the first 20 minutes go, and that's what I'm going to use to base my decision on. If it's a slow pullback and it's not fast, I'm going to hold off and be patient because the pullback could last another day. Maybe we get another gap down open on Friday morning. But if we see a flush first thing and this price goes down into the, let's say, 580s or below, the hourly RSI is going to be approaching single digits at that point. And again, yes, there is bad news behind this last flush down, but it is coming after 5 days of profit taking in already oversold conditions. If we gap down open tomorrow, the 15-minute RSI is going to be close to single digits. So again, this will be a scenario where I'm absolutely going to be buying. The faster we dump tomorrow morning, the more likely I am to aggressively scale into my position. And I will scale in. I'll make an initial entry. And then if we drop down to another leg, I'll make another entry. And then I will exit if things are, going terribly. But what I like to do is wait for a support level to be using, so we're not just trying to catch a falling knife. And that's what I did today on the initial bounce. I was watching the 5-minute time frame. We saw the initial bounce up, and it was at the point where we pulled back and formed this support level and then started moving up again, where I said, all right, this is an equilibrium. High of the day, low of the day, lower high, higher low, tightening range. So I made a bullish entry here, and I said, if we lose these higher lows of support, I will exit the trade, and it will be a very small loss. And the magnitude of the loss is going to be literally, one average trade will make me profit hundreds of % greater than the loss that I took today trying to play this bounce. So when I say it's almost break even, it was slightly below break even. So these are the risk to reward scenarios that you put yourself in that allow you to be a profitable trader consistently. Worst case scenario, I was risking maybe 8 cents to the downside. Best case scenario, I was looking for, 40 cents to the upside. That's 5-to-1 reward versus risk in this trade setup. So if we get a quick flush first thing, we drop down into the 580s or lower, and then we see an initial quick bounce, then we'll have a support level to be using, and we'll say, all right, if we bounce and then set a lower high and then break the new low of the day, that's a red flag that the dump is not over yet, so you want to be out. So I know there's a lot of traders in our chat room who are looking to play this bounce. We're just going to be very cautious and patient, and again, we're going to use the first half an hour of time to determine what our decision is going to be. So let's see how this plays out. Again, if this is sounding crazy to you, that's perfectly fine. It's the way that trading works, where the news events are used as catalysts and changes to cause climax in trends before a turnaround. So let's see how it plays out. We'll check back in, and if I'm wrong and it dumps for 3 more days, I'll come on and say, look at me, I was wrong. So CVSI is another great trade setup that we're watching. Weekly inside bar forming means that if we zoom in, we're going to see an equilibrium. So this daily equilibrium is going to be beautiful because we have a clear tightening range and a ton of volatility. So between the low of today and the high of the bounce, that was a 40% gain or so. Actually, no, that's too much. About a 20% gain or so, where the bulls were extremely strong on that recovery. So we have our high, low, lower, high, higher, low. We're watching this tightening range. And now that I'm looking at the significance of this bounce, a little bit bummed that I didn't make an entry. I was going to be looking to enter today in the 170s, and then I got distracted with a ton of stuff going on in crypto, but didn't get down to the 170s. We have our clear higher low. The range is 186 and 245 is a double top. So if we break 245, it's a clear bull break that has us looking to 278. And if we can't break 245, we stay in this tightening range. So I would love to see another lower high, unable to break 245, and see this tighten up more, because the more tight we get, the more significant the break will occur and get follow through behind it, because everybody's going to be watching the same setup in terms of traders. But if we just see follow through right away tomorrow for the bulls and break 245, then obviously we're looking for strength and continuation up towards that all-time high, which has been on fire. And we're noticing it's actually not an all-time high. I take that back. You got to scroll back here. There is previous price history, but if 245 breaks, we're looking at 278, which is a nice 10% move. So there's a scenario going on in the Canadian MJ sector where the major 4 names are seeing profit taking and choppy action after the vote, but we're seeing funds go to the laggards, and the laggards are the lower cap names. So if you look at ITHUF, it's been exploding. There are names that are showing a lot of strength out there. Daily chart for ITHUF, we almost went 50% in 5 days. We went about 40% in 5 days. So huge gains in some of these smaller names, especially the ones near all-time highs. And that is the direction that we are looking now, which is why we broke up, looked at all these tickers, broke them up into groups, and keeping our eyes on where is the money going. The money was all focusing on the major names heading into the vote. Now there is profit taking in the major names, and that money is being dispersed elsewhere in the sector. Checking in on LXRP is another one we've been playing. proximity to an all-time high is the reason we are interested. And actually, I take it back again. So it is, you do have to go back years and years. This is literally going back to 10 years, the last time we were at these price levels. But basically, the key resistance is 254, and we are close to that level. And if we break it, it will be a significant break, and it'll be the highest price we've seen in 10 years. So technically, calling it a blue sky breakout is incorrect, but obviously a lack of price history if you have to go back 10 years to that level. So the daily chart is giving us a really nice tightening pattern. We have the clear daily higher low at 187. That's our must-hold level. But look at the multiple inside bars, and that tells us it's just a tightening range on the shorter term time frames. So we've got our high, low, and now we're just trading sideways. Bulls need a break of 218, and then we're going to be looking up at 231, and the bears want to see a break of 211 to be heading back down to 194. So it's a tightening range. The daily inside bars are the way to be watching this one, and we could see even one more daily inside bar tomorrow if we see declining volume before a clear break, and this is the ticker to trade it in the US, LXRP. But it's a tight range. And again, I love tight ranges because when they break, there is really nice clarity, and it's a great risk to reward setup, usually in that trade. So LXRP is on watch because of that. CANN is another one. So here's the weekly time frame. We're anticipating an equilibrium with our high, low, lower high, higher low. We'll look for a lower high somewhere in the 470s or 80s if the bulls can make it up there. But why I'm interested in CANN is a tight 4-hour equilibrium. Let's look at it on the hourly for more detail. So it's just getting tight, and a break is imminent. And we put our magnet on. We got our high, low, lower high, higher low, lower high. Bulls trying for a higher low here. And the range could either be 375 to 389, depending if you want it that tight, or we could be looking down here, 368 to 389 if we're not confident that this is our higher low just yet. So I would be watching these two levels, 368 to 389. And we'll likely get a break sometime, if not tomorrow, then certainly on Friday we'll be expecting this break, either a loss of the higher lows or a break of the lower highs. These are the patterns where, you know, you can draw trend lines. I'm not really a trend line drawer myself, as I can see it visually and don't need these trend lines, but this is what it would look like if you were drawing this tightening pattern and a break is imminent. So those are just 4 setups in the short term that we're keeping an eye on. Wanted to get this video out there again just to get people familiar with the psychology of trading and how reacting with the herd to news is not the ideal way to trade. You want to be a step ahead of the herd, and that's what we're going to be looking to do. Very excited to see how TGOD plays out. Again, I might not make an entry tomorrow. It depends on how the morning, the first half an hour goes, and you have to be making some decisions on the fly. Know what you're looking for. Know, you know, if I see this happen, I'm going to do this. If this doesn't happen, I'm going to, you know, back off. And it doesn't matter. Worst case scenario is missing a bull move if you're being really cautious, because you know you're not going to lose anything if you don't make an entry. And then if it bounces without you, no big deal. You protected your capital, which is more important than something. You get the idea. So I appreciate you watching, and we'll check back in over the weekend. Well, I'm going to be traveling. We'll see. Try and check back in over the weekend. Perhaps Sunday at the latest we'll get a video out. Appreciate it. We'll see you then.